diversity in Ethiopia. I had seen a couple of videos of tribal music there, and I was so fascinated by it, and I loved like how preserved each individual tribe is.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Africa Talks. I'm your host Salam Solomon. Today I have invited Olivia Wyatt, who's a photographer, filmmaker, and a former school journalism student who is here in Columbia, Missouri at Ragtag Theater. She is going to be showing her documentary, Staring into the Sun, shot in Ethiopia. She'll be talking to me about her experience during the course of her documentary. Enjoy the show. Thank you for joining us, Olivia. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
I studied photojournalism here at the University of Missouri, and immediately after graduating, I went and worked as a multimedia producer at Magnum Photos, and we were called Magnum in Motion. Basically, we turned all the still images into videos that were seen online in galleries, various places. And a couple of years into that, I picked up a video camera and just started making short documentaries myself. And then that led to this film, Staring into the Sun.
So you had like a wide range of experience before you jumped into making documentaries.
Right.
So what prompted you to go to Ethiopia?
I knew there was a lot of diversity in Ethiopia. I had seen a couple of videos of tribal music there, and I was so fascinated by it, and I loved like how preserved each individual tribe is. And so, mostly because they live in like really remote places and it's super hard to travel, and so everything's very preserved, and I wanted to go there and see that for myself.
So what were some of the things or moments or events that you captured during the course of your, making this documentary?
The first place I went to meet a czar. Are you familiar with czars?
Are they fortune tellers?
Yeah, and they get possessed by spirits, and yeah, they tell you your future and your past. And
how was that experience like? Can you talk about it?
It was really beautiful. My interpreter did not believe in czars when we went, and
very religious,
right? And we went to the Amharic tribe, kind of near in the northern highlands, and it was like a 25-hour bus ride. We went to jail on the way because we traveled at night in a minibus, which is illegal. And I woke up to cops pounding at the bus window with their guns, and I looked behind them, and there was a minibus flipped over in a ditch. And they took us all to this jail in the middle of nowhere and made us wait until they said we had to wait until the sunrise to go.
Oh my God.
But I kind of talked us out of it. And
how did you manage to do that?
I don't know. I mean, the cops didn't even speak Amharic, which is the national language. They spoke, I'm not sure which language they spoke, so communicating with them was a little bit difficult. But I just started talking to them about where I was from and saying how beautiful it was and where they are, and asking kind of, why are we here? I don't understand. And the next thing I knew, we were back on the bus. And everyone on the bus, okay, there was a woman in an Islamic woman in full-on burqa, and sitting in front of her was a Catholic priest, and lots of little children. We're all crammed in. Like, the bus is supposed to hold 12 people, and there are 26 of us on the bus. And everyone was giving me strange looks at first, but after the cops let us back on, they knew it was because I was speaking to them, and everyone was chanting, Foranji, Foranji.
Oh, Foranji.
Yeah. Yeah, so.
Did they explain to you why you had to be taken to jail? Or did they have time to explain to you, or were you taken with your interpreter? Or
yeah, we were all there, and it was because you're not supposed to travel at night, and these buses are just mini buses that are privately owned. And everyone's supposed to travel during the day because those aren't even roads. They're dirt roads, and you're going through the Great Rift Valley and through all the mountains. So anyway, it was a long ride, and we get there. I didn't know if the czar would see me or not. And we had to take another bus to a little village, and we found a boy in the village that would hike with us up this hyena-infested mountain to where the Tsar lived. And he hadn't even met the Tsar. And I get there, and the Tsar says, "I dreamt of you last night. The spirit told me that you want to document me during a spirit possession ceremony. Come back tomorrow, bring a lot of chat. We're going to have a ceremony." So it was.
Was he informed by someone?
No. I mean, it was right when we arrived. He looked at me, and he said to them, "The spirit told me she was coming."
Does it have anything to do with you being a foreigner? Or he just...
In the dream.
Does he encounter a lot of foreigners coming in?
And actually, when I got there, the wife was really terrified because she thought I was going to take the children away. I don't know if you know, but a lot of czars have been going to jail over there lately for their practices. And so she thought I was coming to take the children, and she was frightened of me. And he looked at her and he said, "Don't worry, she's here. The spirits told me she was coming." And I mean, I'm probably not quoting him verbatim, but obviously, I don't know exactly.
Wow, that's such a challenge to go through that. Did you have other challenges during the course of making this documentary, or was it just the Highlands? Was this in Harar, or?
No, Harar. This was in Woldia.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So you didn't have other challenges of with the authorities or any police and during the course of this?
Oh, sure. My interpreter got beat up once on a bus. When I was with the Afar tribe, this wasn't directed at me, but when I was with the Afar tribe, a lot of them have guns or machetes.
Yes,
and,
yes.
They thought an 18-wheeler had run over a little girl, and during the middle of a ceremony that was happening, everyone just whipped out their guns, and they were pointing them past me, but I didn't know. I was just terrified, and I whipped around, and there was the 18-wheeler, and...
Were they asking anything of you, or...?
No, they thought that they were pointing at the driver, or in the truck, but it was a scary moment.
Wanting money, or...?
No, they just wanted to stop his truck because they thought he hit a girl. We heard a child. They heard a child scream, and someone said, "She's been hit. She's been hit." And so the next thing I know, all the guns are whipped, but because the truck was behind me. Do you see what I mean? So everyone is standing in front of me.
What an experience! Oh wow! So of all African countries, Ethiopia is one of the most known African country because of Haile Selassie, you name it, famine, and so many other political relations with the West.
Right.
But what really captured your imagination, as opposed to what everybody thinks of Ethiopia as? What do you think is the real Ethiopia from your experience of doing this?
That's really hard. I mean, I think the reason why I went over and made this documentary was to capture that, so it's really hard for me to summarize in words.
Yeah.
Like, that's
just a short, brief analysis of what you captured, personal.
Like everything I saw? Okay. I don't know. This question is so hard for me to answer. I mean, Ethiopia is beautiful. I saw everything, like wedding ceremonies there. I mean, tribal wedding ceremonies are so fascinating to me, and I got to be a part of one.
Oh, did you? What ethnic group did you?
The Hemar.
Oh, wow. That's really.
And
were they open for anybody to come in and join in? How did you get to be part of this?
I was with them for several days, and I had a baby named after me among the tribe. The next born baby was named after me.
So you stayed with them for quite a while to have some sort of relationship with the...
Right. I went and visited them several times. I didn't stay in the village. I stayed nearby and was back and forth there a lot, and just spent so much time with them.
So every place that you went to, you spent a considerable amount of time, right?
I was only
How would you average it?
I was there a month and a half, so some days I could only spend, maybe a couple of hours. And towards the end, I was running out of time. And there were things that I went, like the Darashe, which is unfortunate because their music is really beautiful, and I wish I could have spent more time with them. But I had to catch my flight the next day. So I took a motorcycle and then hitchhiked through the night on a Isuzu truck, and that's how I got around mostly, was a Isuzu truck. So.
Wow, that's really amazing. It's such an adventurous trip.
Yeah.
So what do you think would be like, what would you say the strangest thing you witnessed during?
The Harar wild hyena feedings.
Yeah, did you get to do that,
Yeah.
or did you just watch?
No, I
people
did
do
it too, but that was, I mean, it's beautiful, like this relationship. You know, there are 4 men that still maintain their relationship with hyenas, which has been around for, you know, they say centuries. And they have names for them, they call and the hyenas come, and there are moments where you see how wild these animals really are. They'll fight with each other over the meat.
Yeah, do they walk you through before you actually go in and experience that? Do they tell you, okay, this is how you need to deal with this hyena, or no?
No, I mean, so when I arrived, the hyenas weren't around, and the man sat down and he had a bucket of meat, and he starts calling and throwing the meat and whistling and saying names, and then they just start coming out of the night. And when I went to sit down and feed one, he said he picked one named Joseph, who was the most docile for me to feed, because he knows. And some, like, he feeds with a stick in his mouth and then one in his hand, and depending on the animal, he, you know.
They choose.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. It is really strange. What do you think is the most powerful or moving thing that you experienced?
So I opened the film with the Borana singing wells, and I find that to be the most beautiful thing that I saw there. I mean, everything was beautiful, but it was really moving to see. Do you know about the Borana singing wells?
Not really. You wanna?
So when they build these intricate wells deep into the earth, and every time it rains, they go and they build a human ladder, and they're just passing buckets up. And there's 3 levels of pools, and they have to pass the buckets of water up to a level where the women and the camels and everyone can come and benefit from it. It's mostly men. There was one woman on the ladder when I was there. And they sing. They do polyphonic singing while they're working to motivate each other, because the work is so arduous and it
keeps their minds off of the...
Yeah. And the singing is just so beautiful with the constant splashing of the buckets, and it's really nice.
Oh, I can't wait to see it. So what should I be expecting when I go and see this documentary tonight? Or what should anybody be expecting?
It's non-narrative, and I shot it that way because I had distribution for the film before I went, and it's a company that I've loved for so long, and I was really happy. They're called Sublime Frequencies, and they put out you know, world music, and they do DVDs, like, where they'll go and document just all sorts of music around the country, and it's just like a visual and audio exploration, and sometimes there's very little context. So that's how I set mine up too. You know, I didn't interview. I had a lot of information, and the DVDs comes out in a book with 100 Polaroids and a 10-page introduction in the front. Tells you about each tribe and some of my experience there, and then in the back will be a DVD.
Will you be writing the content of what your experiences and stuff like that?
Yeah, I already wrote it, and it comes out in January.
Oh, we'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sitting here. Do you want to briefly say something about your experience in Ethiopia before we close?
I think that's it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for
Thank
sitting
you.
with us. Thank you.